Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We're back for another video, but this video is going to be a 4-part series. The reason why is because it is basically my IVF infertility journey from start to finish, and the video will be super long. So I said, let me break it up into 4 parts. It makes it a little bit more smoother. And trying to remember everything in your head is a lot. So of course I have my notes. So the first video is going to be basically how we started, the diagnosis, basically genetic testing, and basically our second diagnosis. Let's get started. Okay guys, all right, so my husband and I has been together for a total of 9 years. That's a long time. I'm not saying that we were trying to conceive all 9 years, absolutely not. But we've been together for that long. We've actually we got married back in 2017, and I wasn't saying we didn't think about not having kids before that, but we didn't actually start trying until the night of our wedding. So the night of our wedding came, and we had conversations and everything like that, and we said, we're gonna go over this route. If it happens, it happens. And we all think that way. We start off like, if it happens, it happens. I mean, some of us, we're like, you know what, we're ready, let's dive right into it. But with him and I, we were more like, let's let it flow. So we realized that, months going down the line, a year passed, we're like, okay, nothing's happening. Maybe something is kind of like, maybe we're not timing it right, or whatever the case may be. Now we kind of like changed our mindset into thinking, what, we're going to actually see if we're actually doing this right, or we're actually going to see if we're doing it at the right time, tracking it accordingly. So I end up getting this ovulation test kit on Amazon. It was from Premom, and it came with like an app that allows you to track everything with it. So and I've actually been using that app since then. So nothing has changed. So I've started to actually track my ovulation to the point where now it is like to the T. Like if I'm saying my period is gonna come tomorrow, guess what? It's gonna come tomorrow. So that was the good part about it. I was aware, and I was always on track, and always on time. And it's crazy how these apps predict how these apps basically predict how you're based on your period duration, like how when your ovulation is going to be. But then when you actually start tracking your ovulation, you realize that you're actually ovulating a completely different time from when this app thinks that it is. So when you finally get that app back on track, oh my gosh, it goes such a long way. It helps so much. So we started that journey. I did it for a couple months, and I was realizing that everything is on point. I mean, my ovulation, the tests weren't incorrect, because in terms of me ovulating, the lines were to the T, like literally to the T. I usually, and it's so weird, and I don't know if a lot of women feel this way, I actually feel when I'm ovulating. So it's crazy that I knew I was before, but sometimes, based on the app, they always say you have to do it before you ovulate, after, like it all depends on, it's this whole science behind it. So I just wanted to make sure I got it right. And every time it said that I was closer to LH surge, like, I was ovulating, basically I felt it, like I felt my whole body ovulating, and I'm like, this is really weird. And I've always felt like that before. This was like really weird to me. So we realized that months and months is going by and nothing is happening. So we're like, okay, what's going on? So on both ends, we were both concerned. We always want to take that precaution and do the right thing, and just face reality. And all of us women, all of us, that want to become parents, always say to ourselves, we want to do it naturally. This is the route that we're going to go. We don't expect it to deter in a completely different direction. But yourself, your body, follow your heart, follow your body. So I went to my gynecologist, and I spoke to her, and I said, I've been tracking my ovulation. There's also some male factor for fertility things that's been going on, but I feel like we're doing everything right, and we were told that we should try before we take certain procedures and steps. So I said, okay. So she said to me, well, based off of what you're telling me, based on the male factor infertility, I'm gonna refer you to a fertility specialist. And I'm like, okay. So we went to fertility specialists, and they said to me, okay, I met my doctor, and he said to me, okay, let's do a couple of tests. Let's see how this goes. So crazy enough, we did a couple of tests. I mean, it was a lot of blood work. We had to sign a lot of paperwork. Like, you feel like you're signing away your life. You fill out a lot of paperwork. We literally went through a whole bunch of genetic testing. So we tested for everything. And we actually just came back from a cruise a couple months before. So this was I think we went into our first appointment September of 2019. We went on our cruise in July. So the doctor said, okay, well, you guys just came back from a cruise literally almost 3 months ago, or 2 months ago and change. This was like the end of September. Almost 3 months ago, we need to make sure that you guys Zika. So Zika comes into play. So we got tested for Zika. We got tested for all kinds of genetics. We got tested for HIV. We got tested for everything in the book that you can think of. So we're like, okay, they're gonna figure this all out. We're gonna go from there. And we also tested my husband for certain things, and for male factor, and then same thing with me. So we did all the testing. Come to find out, we both tested. The Zika came back. It took a while. So come to find out, we both tested negative for Zika, which is great. I mean, the doctor said it doesn't really show up until like 3 months later or so. So the good thing was that we were close to 3 months, and by the time that they tested it, we were literally 3 months, and they said, you know what, you guys are fine, you're good to go. So then here we are, genetic testing comes into play. We get the call that my husband and I both tested as carriers for alpha thalassemia. What? I mean, when my doctor called me, I was like, what is that? And it kind of took me back a little bit. I'm like, what is alpha thalassemia? And he started to explain to us. So alpha thalassemia is basically a blood disorder. We weren't severe in it, because if we were severe, we wouldn't be alive today, unfortunately. Alpha thalassemia, I believe there's 4 counts that we all have, every human. It's like a blood count kind of thing. And I'm still trying to figure it out, do more research on it. And he's basically said that how I tested as missing 1 count, and he's tested as missing 1 count. So the chance of we don't feel anything or any symptoms or anything like that, because we're only missing 1 count. If you're missing 2 or more, like 2 is basically mild anemia, 3 is basically like blood transfusions, severe, like always going to the hospital, everything like that. And then 4 is your chance of survival is very, very slim. A lot of times baby doesn't even make it out of doesn't live far out of the womb or anything like that. So but both my husband and I tested for one thing as missing 1. So he said, when you're missing 1, you could live your life, you don't feel anything, you don't even have any symptoms. So I was like, okay, so if him and I are only tested for 1, he said, well, because you're tested for 1, you're both carriers. So it doesn't mean you have symptoms of it, you're just carriers. I'm like, oh, okay. So, but here's the thing, your offspring, being that you're missing 1 and he's missing 1, your offspring has a chance of missing 2, because the offspring is carrying from 1 on each end. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so what does 2 mean? So he tried to explain. He said, it's mild anemia, but I want you to speak to the genetic counselor that which is the company that did the test, and I forgot their name. I forgot their name. It's the company that did the testing, and I want schedule an appointment for them and speak to them and have them explain to you what the differences and the levels are. So when I spoke to them, they did say to me the same thing. They said, you can they said the same thing basically like what my doctor said. There was another thing that my husband tested as a carrier of, but because I didn't test as a carrier of it, there's a very, very slim chance that my offspring will even have it, or they would just be carriers. They will not even carry the full. So I was like, okay, here we go. I'm on the phone. My husband and I scheduled an appointment with the genetic counselor, and we're on the phone and we're talking. And they basically told us that it's a 50-50, but it's a very, very slim chance with the mild anemia. And because there is so much treatments and everything going on out there today, that mild anemia is slim to nothing. And there's people who live years among years for, with mild anemia, and they never really experience anything. So by you guys having one as carriers, one each, and your offspring only is carrying missing two copies, basically what it is, you guys, your child is not even going to, even reap anything bad off of it. It's just, it's up to you guys on what steps you want to take. So basically, my doctor, after I spoke to him on what the genetic counselor broke down to us, he said to us that, we can do further testing. So, we were going to do the PGS testing, which is for chromosomes. But we also, he said to us, you guys can actually send your embryos after you do the chromosome testing to another lab, which is in California, have them test for this alpha thalassemia, so you can actually see which embryos is a carrier of it and which is not. So my husband and I contemplated it for a while. We said, at first, when the news hit me that we were carriers of this and we heard the breakdown of it, at first I was like, I don't want my child to suffer years and years of blood transfusions and this, and go into the hospital. That not only is that unfair to my child, but it is also costly, and it just took me by a complete surprise, and it set me back. But he said that, because the genetic counselor explained to us how the mild anemia is really not a huge effect compared to, the other three missing counts, and is not guaranteed that your offspring will have it. We contemplated it, and we're very faithful, and we're just like, what, we're gonna go through the process and we're just gonna leave it in God's hands. So it kind of brought us to a little bit of a perspective, because you just never know what you and your husband both are carriers of, and you never know what can occur throughout your pregnancy or not, that can affect your offspring. Or even in your life, you meet somebody, you fall in love, but you don't know what their family genetics downline has, or vice versa. So it's just basically, it's kind of like an eye-opener, and us doing this testing kind of opened up our mind a lot more, and understanding, the importance of doing certain testings just for, your overall mental sanity, and as well as, your future offspring's life. You want them to have a healthy life, so you have to think about and make these choices. And, sometimes you can't think about the cost. I mean, it does hit you like a whirlwind. I didn't think mild anemia was anything that was severe, and just, the reassurance is always good. And I said, what, we're gonna leave it in God's hands, and we're gonna take this risk. There were other also male factor infertility that played a role, but when we spoke to my doctor, he basically said to us, our only route was IVF. So it was a blow overall, because we wanted to conceive naturally. My husband and I took it really, really hard. But what can we do? We just got to stay positive, and we just got to keep moving forward with the process. So I always encourage everybody, take the necessary steps that you need to take. It's not a journey that we all ask for, and it's not a journey that we all want to be a part of, but it is a journey called life. Have to just go with the flow. Go with the flow. Continue to stay positive, because guess what? Our time is coming. Our time is coming, So I just want to encourage everybody to just follow your heart, listen to your body, listen to your partner as well. And just in terms of how this process is, how everybody feels, communicate accordingly. You guys are in this together. yes, there's sometimes they are, you know, male, and they may not understand what us females could be dealing with emotionally and internally inside, but they are our partner, and they completely and understand us wholeheartedly, and they want to be there for us. They may not physically understand, but they're there for us, you know. And he has been the greatest, you know, backbone and support in every single way. So I, you know, I, like I said, I just encourage you guys, you know. So this is part one, and this is just me telling you guys how this journey all started. So we're basically at this point of me filming this video, I'm not gonna lie to you, we are basically almost 3 years into this process. We, like I said, and this is June of 2020, so we started this journey for like almost 3 years now. So we're just going with the flow, and you know, hopefully by the time at the end of the 4 steps and as the journey go on, you know, we'll have some great news. Like I said, I have a positive mindset, so we're just gonna go from there. So part 2 of the video, the next video, is just going to be about my retrieval process, what happened, how it was, how I felt, and of course something major happened before my retrieval date, and I'm telling you, I thank God right now, you know, but we're gonna get to that in part 2. So of course, if you guys like this first part of the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Well, thank you guys, and bye. See you next video.